configurations in Onshape are both powerful and unique. Product variants can be driven by a single list of predefined fixed values, or they can be split into different inputs, including variables and checkboxes, simplifying the design and making user selection more intuitive. In this example, setting the size to custom and with a clever use of variables and conditional statements enables the size to be driven by exact numerical values, effectively providing infinite permutations, within reason of course. On a design like this, size is not the only factor. Modular or engineer-to-order products often have additional options to customize the final design. Do you need foam inserts? Do you want cutouts in the foam? What sort of cutouts and what size? Onshape's configurations enable user freedom while maintaining design control. However, having lots of options can be confusing if some are dependent on others. For example, removing the cutouts and changing the case to a default size makes all these inputs, bar one, redundant. Now, when the user edits one or more of these values, the model does not change because those inputs are being ignored due to previous user selections. To make configurations even more powerful and intuitive, visibility conditions can be added to each input. This dialog shows all the available inputs with a preview on the right. The first input cannot be changed, but all subsequent ones can have visibility conditions applied. Simply select which input this one depends on and the values which make it visible. Because the value for size in the preview is not set to custom, the length input is hidden. This process can then be repeated for the other two values. Now testing the preview shows that any value other than custom hides the length, depth and height variables. Now the foam inserts option should always be visible, therefore it should be ignored, but the cutouts option is entirely dependent on the foam being present. So add a condition controlled by the previous input and when its value is set to true. The preview updates to reflect these changes. The remainder of the values are dependent on the cutouts option. The cutout type should only display if the cutout option is true. Likewise, the number of compartments only applies if the cutout type is set to compartments. Testing the preview shows that it's all working as expected until you uncheck the cutouts option. The number of compartments input is still visible. This is because visibility is not inherited. This enables configuration inputs to be used in more than one possible scenario. To rectify this, simply add another condition that requires the cutouts option to be true. Finally, for the slot sizes, they are only needed if the cutout type is set to slots. A final check of the preview demonstrates that all the inputs and their visibility are behaving correctly. The configuration inputs are now simplified wherever they are used, in the Part Studio, Assembly, or Insert dialog, making configurations in Onshape easier to use and more powerful than ever. The Details panel on the Documents page provides a lot of useful information, like the document owner, the description, if it has one, labels, and who created and last modified it. Onshape Enterprise and Onshape Education Enterprise users can see analytics about the document, and all users can see who it's shared with, and the version and history graph direct from the Documents page. Now, a new Properties panel shows the name, description, and category for this document. Categories enable companies to group custom properties together, and if a category has been set up, those custom properties will appear below. Any user with edit permissions can change these properties. A document can have as many categories as needed. For example, to differentiate supplier data from in-house designs, a category can add supplier-specific data such as vendor, who approved it, and the date it was received or approved. Any categories and properties can be assigned to a document. This provides anyone who is viewing this document with all the relevant and necessary information. This data will, of course, always be available, making browsing and finding the right documents much easier. Categories can also be applied to folders, either shared to replicate the same data as the documents contained within it, or unique. If folders are being used to manage project data, a dedicated category for projects, which comes with Onshape Enterprise as standard, can also be replicated in Onshape Professional to add more lifecycle data and critical dates for the team to follow. The most important thing to note is that folders now have metadata, and you can add as much information as required. Of course, projects in Onshape Enterprise also have properties and provide many more benefits, like permission schemes and role-based access, to manage more complex projects and product structures. Enhanced category types and the properties panel add extra data management capabilities as standard to Onshape. When exporting the flat pattern of a sheet metal part containing counterbore or countersink holes, a new checkbox on the export dialog gives you the option to include or exclude the major diameter hole geometry. In addition, the exported DWG or DXF file now contains layers specific to that geometry and also dependent upon the direction of the hole and which face is up, called sheet metal C-bore C-sink down and C-bore C-sink up. Hiding these layers removes the geometry from view. Great for easier CNC programming.
Thanks for watching. Click the logo to subscribe or see some of our other videos linked here.